Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. My name is Yumo Liu, and I'm currently 15 years old, a high school student in RDFC Chaoyang Brand School in Beijing of China. I've been caring about climate change since I was 9 years old, when I first heard that the rising sea level will eventually one day flood my coastal hometown in Zhuhai. Now, I'm running an environmental club at school and planning to go on with a major in environmental science in the future. And I'm very glad to be here with a valuable opportunity to talk about climate change and especially the inequality it brings about. So climate change affects the globe as a whole. Melting glaciers, rising sea levels, extreme climates, but this isn't it. This isn't all the dangers that are posed in front of us, threatening the existence of us humankind. And there's inequality that's equally as threatening. The effects of climate change, although global, will not be uniformly distributed across the globe. Developing countries are likelier to experience more severe climate damages and consequences. Many developing regions have naturally warmer climates than those in the developed world, and they rely more heavily on climate-sensitive sectors such as agriculture, forestry, and tourism. And this uncovers the inequality, including the unequal exposure to climate hazards, difference in susceptibility to climate damages, and the various ability of people to cope and recover from climate harms. In the past few days, when I was going through the pavilions, this inequality was repeatedly stressed and emphasized. Take Africa, where we are right now, as an example. As temperatures rise, regions will face declining crop yields and struggle to produce enough food for domestic consumption. For sub-Saharan Africa, food security will become a major challenge too, due to the droughts and shifts in the rainfall. And when it comes to resolving these issues, developing countries often suffer from the lack of research funding and the lack of human and natural capital to execute effective solutions. Additionally, 3 months ago, the Chinese metropolis of Sichuan province had to implement measures to temporarily ration electricity. Under the unbearable temperature of over 40 degrees Celsius, the precipitation decreased by 50%, so the water behind the hydroelectric dams kept evaporating away. The electricity demanded versus the actual amount supplied went so out of balance. The whole city paused. The industries temporarily ceased production, while office buildings faced tighter restrictions on electricity use, just so that air conditioning can be provided to as many people as possible to protect them from the soaring heat. Humanity is indeed making progress. Regardless, climate consequences makes our society even more troublesome and forces some regions to go backwards in the development timeline. And that's the inequality. The warming is like the plague from medieval times. It engulfs the water away from rivers and oceans, generating food security issues for African men and leaving Sichuan citizens no place to hide from the heat waves. While in other regions, as the primary producer and emitter of carbon dioxide, may not be experiencing as much of the consequences. Climate change is global, and I don't have to repeat this, but the taking up of responsibility is all it takes to eliminate the inequality. But it's already taking us 27 COPs. 27 immediately is what it's supposed to be taking. The principle of common but differentiated responsibilities should be applied and insisted on when it comes to commitments. Developed countries should take on more responsibility as they are historically responsible for a greater part of climate change and are more capable in developing solutions. Developing countries should acknowledge and accept the fact and the special and urgent task to incorporate sustainability into their development. Plenty of countries are already doing so. So in fact, China has been actively taking a responsibility. In 2021, the carbon dioxide emissions per unit GDP were a half lower than that in 2005. The capacity of renewable energy power generation will be accounting for 45% of the total installed capacity of power generation. And digital platforms, including those like Alibaba, will be transforming to calculate users' carbon emissions and design interactive programs and apps like the Ant Forest to encourage green lifestyles among citizens. Still, one must bear in mind that developing countries are still tackling poverty, low literacy rates, health and food insecurity issues, and most importantly, climate vulnerability and all the inequality issues mentioned above. Not even to mention the difficulty of achieving sustainability in the meantime. Therefore, more tolerance shall be given to developing countries in terms of sustainability measures, meaning that the emissions of developed and developing countries cannot be treated at par. The development rights should not be restricted, but only modified to fit the current climate situation and needs. For vulnerable regions like the developing countries, climate change is not negotiations to go through, but serious life and death situations and decisions. It is not fair for those regions to suffer, and it's also not fair for world leaders to choose profit over their lives. Their vulnerability should be recognized, and their development should be assisted with guaranteed and pledged commitments. As Secretary General Guterres said a few days ago, opportunity remains open, but only a shaft of light is left. I hope that this is just a short time in history where we reflect back on our mistakes to turn our development back on track. I hope that the future generation, when they see our efforts, will be proud of what we have done and proud of the collaboration we have made as a whole of mankind. Thank you.